Director Ken Anakin recalls the making of Swiss Family Robinson, from memories of early concept meetings with Walt Disney to the unique challenges of shooting on an island location.
The producer, Bill Anderson, and myself and Walt used to meet every morning at 10 o'clock in his office with a tame writer. And we would kick around all the ideas. He says, think of all the things you would love to do with the kids, with these animals, with everything as a setting around you. Just think of what it could be like if you weren't there just with your wife, but that you had a very happy family with you. 3 kids, all in different stages of growing up. And you could learn to live among nature. Think of all the things that you would like to happen if there were any animals that you can think of were there, that there were things like waterfalls you could slide down, you could have a tree house, you could make trips into the inland. Just try and think of all these things. We would have these discussions, and we decided that eventually we would build up to a big animal race, and on that day the pirates would arrive, and the family would have to defend themselves against the pirates in the best comedy battles that we could make. So this was handed out to myself and a sketch artist. I would go with John Jensen, who was his greatest sketch artist, and we would devise all the things we could. Walt thought we would shoot in Jamaica, where he had very recently made 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. But the beach wasn't at all like we wanted. It hadn't a feeling of being an island at all. It was a long, long stretch of sea, and miles away from any headquarters. We would have had to live in tents. And somebody mentioned that there is an island called Tobago. This is just north of Trinidad, and it has 2 planes a day going. It's only 20 minutes flight. So we jumped on the plane. The island was 14 miles long, and it had 1 road that went right up the island. In 2 days we found everything we needed. John Howell went out there as soon as we had the sketches done, and they were building for say about 4 months before we went out. Then of course I can remember the lagoon that we'd chosen, which had a lovely sort of little inlet river coming into it. Nobody had ever told us that the tides sometimes changed this. And here we are with the continuity established. We go one day, the lagoon's in quite a different place, the river from the sea. And I remember we employed then something like 250 women carrying sandbags all day for 3 days to bring this lagoon back again to the same place as it was. It worked. The actors, we had a wonderful team of actors. Dorothy and John Mills regarded themselves as the perfect father and mother of a family. And I know that Dorothy, who had worked almost entirely in the studios up to that time, because that's how pictures were made, it was an eye-opener to her to go and work on an island like Tobago. The young ones, Janet, Jimmy, Tommy and Moochie, they were prepared to do anything. Moochie could do anything. Moochie was quite brilliant and a terribly well coordinated boy, and if he said he could do anything, I let him do it. Probably the most interesting character was Sesu Hayakawa, who was, I think, about 70 then. He had had a great career in American movies as a heavy, and here he loved the idea of playing the pirate. Then of course there was Cecil Parker, who was a very well-known figure of English theatre, and he came out and played the Admiral. He also felt that this was Tobago was an experience which was very different, and that he was very lucky to be having. The building of the wreck on the rocks was a very big job. They had to bring riggers out and drill holes and put tubular scaffolding in to hold the wreck. They had to design and make the junk, which was built around another boat, and that boat is tipped slightly, as you can see on the photographs, and You can see land in the background, but we were able to work on a deck which was sort of rather like this, but it was always there. And let's face it, it was terribly well built because it lasted for nearly a year. The treehouse remained as a showplace until the hurricane came. 2 years later, I think it was about 2 years, everything worked. We decided that we needed 8 Great Danes to be able to provide 2 Great Danes. One became a character dog when he wanted to look interesting. He was called Bascom. Then we had one dog who was a great swimmer. That was when the raft was in the whirlpool. We had to have a dog who had been used to hunting mountain lion and wouldn't be afraid of going for the tiger. We needed a baby elephant. We found the big tortoise, who was 120 years old at that time. We had 40 rhesus monkeys. We had altogether over 200 birds that we took. We had 2 pythons or anacondas. We had the hyenas. We had the zebra. We had ostriches. All the native Tobagans followed on the road from the airport as all these animals, some of them they'd never seen before. We had 14 wonderful wranglers that we brought from LA, and they used to come to me around about 4 o'clock in the afternoon saying, "Say, Mr. Anakin, what is the attitude you want from my animal tomorrow?" And you would say, "Well, I want him to do so and so and so and so," and they would go away that night and think out what to do. They were absolutely fantastic professionals. We needed to show the bravery of the boys. We chose an anaconda because it has to breathe like you and I do. So that the trick really is that as long as you are hold of the head, or near the head, if you feel it constricting round you, all you have to do is to dip it into the water, and it has to somehow struggle for breath, and so it lets go of you. First of all, I did the show with 2 stunt guys we brought from LA. But Jimmy and Tommy Kirk knew they had to do some close-ups, and they watched the material there, and they talked to the boys and they said, "What does it feel like when it's constricting?" And they came to me and said, "You know, we'd like to do the whole sequence." So I arranged that always Jimmy was the one who would be able to keep a hold of the snake's head. And they went in and did it, and I was told that by Jimmy's wife that he didn't sleep all that night before, but he did it. There is the tiger, of course, that comes out on the location and chases a pirate. That's real. Well, now, seeing the tiger in the bottom of the pit, that was different. We built a pit on our stage. I said to the handler, to be quite safe looking down on the tiger, because we want to see it down there pacing about and looking angry, what height should we go? He says, 18 feet. The tiger is led into the bottom of the pit by the handler. The tiger looks around, then looks up at us, just sort of looks, and before we know where it is, the tiger has, without apparently any effort, just gone whoosh, come straight up on the platform, right through the operator's legs and the legs of the camera, and is loose in the studio. Bringing the stuff from the wreck was a most terrible job. If you can remember, in the picture you have animals all attached to boxes and ropes, and it took us 2 weeks to bring these animals in, towing them with the little boat, because no sooner would we get the sheep in a harness than a pig would turn over on its back, and the continuity girl would shout, "Look, this piggy's dying, look, you've got to go and save it." We had people going in, swimming, turning over pigs, doing it. I mean, that again was something which really was an impossibility, but after the 14th day, somehow it all did work. All the elements of the sequences were shot according to our planned shooting, according to the storyboards, but obviously you let sequences go on and shot a bit more, and as you saw something happen, you thought, why don't I have another shot like this? And therefore, in the end, the best planning we could do, and then everybody working for the same objective to get the very best out of it, and then good editing. The only time that was at all a little scary was when Moochie got pulled by the ostrich, and he just wouldn't leave go. You know, and there he was bouncing around. He had hold of the ostrich, the rope on the ostrich, and the ostrich just went, and he just held on. It made a very good shot, and as long as he was prepared to do it, we let the cameras turn. It jumps out to me as to how it's still very much in date, and I'm very happy about that. I'm amazed that even with all the new things we do in movies, that it doesn't look old-fashioned, and it doesn't look as though there are tricks that we've learned today that we should have used in that picture. I wouldn't use any other tricks really than I did in that picture. I thought that I would never ever have an experience like it again. I thought I would never be able to make a movie like that again. As far as I was concerned, and as most of the crew, they really felt they were very lucky doing it. They didn't know always what I was going to come up with and ask them to do, but as long as they were there in the sunshine and they had a straw hat and something on their feet, they were very happy doing it. We were the lucky people being part of the family.